Very different picture from 8 years ago. The American folks are much more behind Donald Trump than they were back in November of 2016. And Democrats, who were so rich in their opposition to Donald Trump 8 years ago, at this particular point, they're just like, I'm going to take a step back.
Harry Anton, everyone, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Being here and staying over there. This distance is good. Kate?
Watching CNN have to admit that Trump's approval rating is skyrocketing, especially comparatively to 2016, is probably one of the most satisfying things that I've ever got to experience. But before we get into that, make sure to subscribe to RTN News because it ensures to YouTube that you are enjoying these videos and they'll continually put it in your feed and then push it out to more people as well so they can enjoy this awesome content. I am Titus. Let's get into this video.
President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of their victory. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up and, dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, you know, we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic. It's flip-flop, where a narrow majority 8 years ago were scared or concerned about the upcoming Trump term. Now what we see is that the majority is excited or optimistic about the Trump term. So what we're just seeing is very different numbers from where we were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, folks really were not that in love with the Trump transition. Now they are, and more than that, looking forward to the upcoming Trump term. 8 years ago, the majority were scared or concerned. Now the majority are excited or optimistic.
I really want to know who this guy is because he is so... I want to know who this guy is because he's so chipper and excited about the fact that Trump's approval rating is skyrocketed and that things have flipped in terms of people being optimistic and excited as opposed to scared and terrified, which is actually something that, I mean, the reason why they were terrified to begin with was because of networks like CNN, MSNBC, NBC, because they were letting everybody know that he was a dictator, he's going to ruin our country, the world's going to end. And to be honest, because he hadn't been president yet, that everyone had a reason. I mean, didn't have a reason, but they all fell for the lie because that's all that what was being propagated in the media. And so, like, they were like, just believed what they were told because we thought we could trust legacy media. Turns out we can't. But it's so funny because this time around we've seen him as president. He's already been a president. So it's just kind of like, yeah, even if I didn't want him, like, yeah, I didn't want him, but that was it. Like, he's not going to do, he didn't do anything his first term. Our lives aren't ruined. He didn't take any rights away. Like, so it seems like people are kind of waking up to reality. Like, maybe I didn't want him in office. Maybe I preferred a different person, but he's not going to be as bad. And maybe I even switched and voted for him. So I'm a little optimistic and excited to see what he's going to do again. Because I really miss those low gas prices and that thriving economy and more money in my paycheck, those taxes being cut. It was a good time to be alive. And now we get to maybe go through this and even better this time around. So it's really exciting. And this guy's like so chipper about it. And it's on CNN. So that's very interesting.
Look, I mean, the reality is for these cabinet picks, they've got to get confirmed by the Senate here. And so I think rightfully so, a lot of concern has gone into, okay, where will Republicans fall in supporting these picks since they are the majority? But Democrats were also very opposed to Trump's picks and his presidency overall in 2017 coming in. Where are they now?
I think one word to describe Democrats now is just they're exhausted. They're tired. You know, it's very hard being in the opposition. Donald Trump wears out his opponents, and I think they've done that here. So Democrats, Trump's win motivates me in what way to do things? Just 44% say to oppose Donald Trump. The majority, the 56%, either 46%, it doesn't motivate me at all, which I think is really the exhaustion pick, right? This is the plurality. Or 10% say it actually motivates them to support Donald Trump. Together, these numbers get 56%, far higher than the 44% who say oppose Donald Trump. The bottom line is this. Republicans very motivated by Donald Trump's win. And compared to 8 years ago, Democrats just really tired. They have just given up. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah,
Trump gets
this is
sworn
November
in.
2024. I think a lot of people are exhausted.
That's actually insane, guys. When you think about that, 44% oppose Donald Trump. So this is a Democratic poll. 44% of Democrats oppose Donald Trump. 46% doesn't motivate me. I'm not opposed to him. I'm indifferent. And then 10% of the Democratic Party supports him. That means 56% of the Democratic Party, obviously that was polled, is in favor of him, and 44% is opposed, or is just like more pro, more indifferent. Like more of the Democratic Party is less opposed to Trump. That's insane. It's a massive shift from what we had dealt with in 2016, where everyone was terrified that the world was going to end and burn and running through the streets. F Donald Trump. Like, man, we're living in a time.
After the election.
I think a lot of people are exhausted, but this is really a very different picture from 8 years ago. The American folks are much more behind Donald Trump than they were back in November of 2016. And Democrats who were so rich in their opposition to Donald Trump 8 years ago, at this particular point, they're just like, I'm going to take a step back.
Harry Anton, everyone, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Being here and staying over there. This distance is good. Kate?
He said staying over there. It sounds like that guy's not a fan of Trump, the way that he was talking there, which is, I mean, you could tell by the way his demeanor. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's a Republican and he's like super happy about this. But based off his demeanor and his excitement to be distanced away from the guy who's very chipper and excited about the switch in the American public's perception of Donald Trump, would make me believe that he's not a fan. But it's interesting. And I'm glad that you were forced to acknowledge that we as the American people voted for the man. He almost got 77 million votes, over 50% of the nation, and blew her out of the water in Electoral College. So it's such a good win. Such a good win. But now we have another video of talking about stats in terms of our Americans' perception on DEI and how the importance that we do or do not hold in terms of that whole endeavor that has pushed so heavily by the left over the last 4 years. So let's get into this.
Companies taking even a stand on the issue.
Now, this is where it gets very interesting because here we have a real-time trend. So let's take a look at it, all right? Businesses' DEI public stance. Important to know, back in 2021, so we can go all the way back then, right? Just after the summer of George Floyd, which of course was back in 2020. How important did folks think it was to know the DEI stances of businesses? It was 68%. It was 68%. Look at where we are now in 2024, a real decrease. Just 53% of Americans want to know a business's DEI stance. So what we've seen here is back, right after the summer of George Floyd, there was a lot of interest in DEI, a lot of interest in folks knowing businesses' stances towards DEI. Now, considerably less so in 2024. This is a drop of 15 points. That's a considerable drop. I like looking at poll questions. You oftentimes don't see this type of drop unless there's a real change in public opinion.
Do you want to know why? Because people are sick. It's racist, essentially. You are literally saying that your skin color, your gender, your ethnicity, attributes that you cannot control by the way that you look are going to be prioritized in terms of hiring and putting people into places that when people may be qualified that don't happen to look in these marginalized minority groups or whatever. That's not fair. You should literally be placed in these positions based off your merit, your skill, your ability, your knowledge. It's actually mind-boggling to me that there's a time in history. I mean, I guess we're currently still living this time, but pendulum swinging, and again, we went from 68% to 53%. We're like, maybe that doesn't mean as much to me as I thought it did. Obviously, representation is important in the sense of you shouldn't be discriminating against people based off the color of their skin. And if they're qualified and they look like me, or they're qualified and look like a white person, whoever's most qualified for the job should get it. And if you want to play that whole, they're both equally qualified, fine. If you want to pick the black person, pick the black person, if that's what that makes you feel better. But it should never be this white person is more qualified, and but we're going to pick the black person because diversity, or vice versa. This black person is more qualified, but we're going to pick the white person because of DI pissed me off. So now I'm not going to pick any black people. There's a probably happy middle in between there. But it should be merit-based. It should not be based off attributes that nobody can control. That's absolutely insane. Oh, you're black, so I'm picking you, or you're black, I'm not picking you. You're qualified. That's why I'm choosing you. Absolutely insane.
That's striking, those numbers. I remember 2021 very well and how important it was to people in the community and, frankly, voters overall. I mean, it's become this issue of DEI and concept, a political lightning rod, especially among conservatives, Harry. How do Republicans and Democrats view it?
Yeah, what is driving this decline? It's Republicans. Okay, important to want to know a business's DEI stance. You go back to 2021. Look, there was a partisan divide between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats coming in at 86%, Republicans coming in at 50%. Democrats have basically stayed pretty steady on this issue, right? In 2024, it's 79%, a slight drop, but not so far off from that 86%. Look at Republicans. Look at this drop off in this number. 50% back in 2021 said it was important to know a business's stance on DEI. Now it's just 22%. That is a drop of more than half from 2021 to 2024. And that, of course, is mirroring what we're seeing from politicians, from Republicans, folks like Donald Trump. The bottom line is the Republican base on DEI 3 years ago, kind of lukewarm, now in vast opposition to it. They don't want to hear anything from businesses on DEI. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of businesses differentiating themselves out, saying, you know what, we're taking a step back.
Yeah, because it never should have been a thing to begin with. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Like, man, that's not how it works, man. And I never understood that. And honestly, it's disrespectful. And I would feel like now it makes me question any job that I ever was to apply for. Did I get it because I was qualified, because I was good enough? It creates a sense of doubt in yourself. You're like always going to wonder if I got here because I was qualified, because I was smart enough, because I was the best person for the job, or did I get it because of the way that I look? Something that I can't control. That would make me feel lesser than. And the whole like wokeism in terms of like equality or inclusion, whatever, that literally makes me feel lesser than, because you're telling me that like I can't make it on my own. I need a handout. I need help because you're not smart enough. Oh, everyone hates you, even though it's not that's not my life experience, and so on and so on and so on. There's always some sort of explanation for why you need my help, and it's almost like a white superiority complex. They say the white savior. Like they think that you need them in order to do something with your life, and I'm doing well on my own. I don't need your help. And I really am grateful that even the Democrats have gone down from 86 to 79%, and hopefully it goes down lower, and that that Republicans were 50% to 22%. I think everybody needs to be at 0. So that'd be great. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe to RTM News. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.